How many times have you been laying in bed at night and you've been thinking, I'm going to get up tomorrow morning, I'm going to meditate for 20 minutes, I'm going to get up at 6 a.m., I'm going to have a cold shower after, I'm going to make a really healthy breakfast, and I'm going to get to work, and it's going to be an amazing way of starting my day. And you go to bed, you feel motivated, you're ready to do it. And then you wake up, the alarm goes off at 6, you feel knackered. You really aren't inspired anymore. You've got thoughts of, I can't be bothered with this. I just want like another 10 minutes in bed. I just need another 10 minutes. I'm not that interested in meditation anyway. And you skip it. You hit the snooze button. You lie in. You get up an hour late. You're rushing around then. You end up having toast instead of a healthy breakfast because you've not got any more time. And you rush out the door. You feel half stressed on your way to work. And you're thinking, why did I make that decision the night before? I was so motivated. I was so keen to do it. And this is a prime example of the higher self the night before being the dominant way of thinking. The higher self was the part of you that was inspired to do something good for yourself, that wants you to do things that are useful and beneficial. But then in the morning, the voice of the lower self was front of mind. And that was the thing that determined how you then carried on in that morning. The choices that you made were based on the lower self, internal voice of the lower self. So we can see from this example that, I'm sure we've all experienced this, we all have these two sides to ourselves. We all have the part of us that has our best interests at heart, that wants us to do things that are beneficial and good for us and is inspired. And then we've got the other side, which is a bit lazy, which is fearful, which has doubts, which can't be bothered to do anything. That part is the lower self, or the ego self. And I've had a lot of questions recently since my video on astral projection sort of got a bit of traction, with people saying, Ben, I want help with connecting to my higher self. How can I do it? And it made me think. And as I thought about this, I came to the realization that we're always connected to the higher self. It's not a matter of connecting to the higher self. The higher self is part of us. It is us. Really, what we need to do is learn how to remove the part of us that is obscuring the higher self. And to do that, we have to understand the language of the higher self. How do we know which part of us is talking at any one time? There is a book actually called Autobiography of a Yogi. And I don't know if you've heard this before. It's quite a popular book. Read this before. It's quite a popular book. It was written by a yogi, funnily enough, called Paramahansa Yogananda. And on his website, he has compiled 26 virtues, which are within the Bhagavad Gita, which is the ancient Hindu text. And he calls it 26 virtues that make man godlike. And these virtues are things like fearlessness, humility, self-restraint, determination, courage, honesty, generosity, like all beautiful traits that I think all of us would read and aspire to live our lives in accordance to that. And it made me realize that if the higher self had a language, it would be saturated with the language of these virtues. It would be saturated with these virtues. The higher self communicates using these ways of behaving, these characteristics. And in situations, we normally have a choice between, do we choose the voice of fear or do we choose the voice of fearlessness? So knowing this, it allows us to understand which part of us is communicating at any one time, and understand that there is different parts of us that are trying to communicate with us at any one time. And we have a decision to make when we're going about our life. We can decide, do I choose the voice of the higher self? Do I choose the voice of the lower self? And this is where our free will comes into play. For most people, they are overly dominated with the lower voice. The lower self is prevalent. The higher self can't be heard much. Occasionally it creeps in and gives some inspiration and some great ideas, but then we're dominated by this lower way of thinking. And it's really hard. It's like, how do we overcome that? How do we subdue this lower self in order to actually hear the higher self, which is always there available to us? It's just obscured by this lower self. And obviously, if you've watched my videos before, you will know that I'm a meditation teacher. You will know that I came to meditation when I was about 6. My dad was a meditation teacher, and meditating has been a big part of my life for my entire life. Probably less of you will know that when I was in my early 20s, I wanted to challenge myself physically. And so I started signing up to triathlons. I became a Great Britain triathlete in the age group levels. And I raced at a national level in triathlon and duathlon. I did Ironman triathlons, climbed mountains all over the world, pushed my body to the limit, basically. I wanted to use the training that I'd kind of been doing in meditation and put it into a physical challenge, or put it into a test in a physical way. And I generally speaking found that I was naturally able to do that quite easily. And I believe that this is because of meditation. And I believe that through meditation, through years and years of meditation, and when I say this, I say this not meaning that I have by any means mastered this or that I don't have a lower self, because I very much do. But through meditation, I have subdued the lower self to a great degree, which has meant that I feel more guided and more connected to my higher self. And it's been very, very easy for me to achieve things like I did in triathlon and things like this, because I was able to be determined. I was able to be self-disciplined. I was able to have that self-restraint and all of those good virtues that are mentioned within the Bhagavad Gita. Not all of them, of course, but a lot of them. And so my first tip for you to connect to your higher self is to start to meditate and specifically using a single-pointed, focused meditation. The reason for this, the reason why I think so highly of single-pointed, focused meditations, is because it gives you the opportunity to actually start to subdue the lower self, the lower voice, because you're not fueling it. When you start focusing on thoughts, as we all know and have all experienced, when you think too much, you overthink. You fuel that thinking process, and you then have more thoughts to deal with. Meditation is very much the antithesis of that. We let go of thoughts continually and put our attention onto something that is not a thought, which is a neutral area. So it might be the breath, it could be a candle flame. And when we do that for weeks and months at a time, every day, for 10, 20 minutes, because we're not fueling the lower self, we're not fueling those thoughts, naturally they start to subdue and reduce. And this isn't something that I've just experienced myself. I've taught many people over the years, and lots of them have had this experience as well. So this is not just because I've been doing meditation for so long. You can notice a big difference in a couple of months. 3 months, you'll notice a big difference in the level of thoughts, or the amount of thoughts that you have. This process also enhances your awareness. So not only does the chatter in your mind start to reduce, but your awareness of what chatter is going on enhances. And therefore your ability to then select the higher self over the lower self is improved. And naturally this is a snowball effect, because as you can start then choosing the higher self more often, by the fact that where you place your awareness, your attention, you place your energy, you actually start to naturally fuel the higher self. You actually start to connect more with the higher self. And so if your mind was like a garden, you are essentially weeding out the lower thoughts, the lower natures, and you are fueling and connecting to and feeding the higher self, the higher part of yourself. And so gradually it becomes one big snowball effect. Your mind starts to become calmer. You start to have better quality thoughts. It becomes more easy to align yourself with these good virtues and behave in a manner that is aligned to the language of the higher self. So it's a twofold process of A, calming the mind through meditation and building your awareness, but then equally purifying the mind by not engaging in the lower natures and being clear on what part of yourself is the lower self and what part of yourself is the higher self, and aligning yourself with the higher self by choosing ways of behaving and ways of thinking that are aligned to these natures, which are innately the higher self, the higher part of you. So the higher self is always with you. It's always ready there for you to connect to. It's just obscured by the lower self. If you go through this process of learning how to meditate, meditating every single day, quietening the mind by doing that and enhancing your awareness, and then equally, as you're doing that and as you're going about your daily life, filling the mind with higher natures and choosing and making decisions that are aligned with these 26 virtues, you will naturally connect with your higher self. If you need any help with meditation, if you're looking to learn meditation, I've actually got a course coming up. Depending on when you're watching this video, it'll either be below, and if it's not there yet, then there is a link to pre-register for the course. So if you feel like doing that, please do. I hope this video was useful, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks so much.